सदा सदा अनुग्रहानि ग्रह गृहीतमुनि विग्रहो भगवान् सर्वासामुपनिषदां दुर्वासा जयति दैशिकः प्रथमः त्र्यंबका विहित संतति ताम्रपर्णीः सन्मौक्तिक प्रकर कांति विशेष भाजः पूर्वे जयन्ति गुरुवो गुरु शास्त्र सिंधु कललोल केली कलनामल कर्णधाराः जयति गुरुरेक एव श्री श्रीकण्ठो भुवि प्रथितः तदपरमूर्तिर्भगवान् महेश्वरो भूतिराजस्य श्री सोमानंद बोध श्रीमत उत्पल विनिहसिताः जयन्ति संविदा आमोद संदर्वा दिक्प्रसर्पिणः तद आस्वाद भरावेश ब्रह्महितां मति षट्पदीं गुरुर्लक्ष्मण गुप्तस्य नाद सम्मोहिनीं नुमः सदा अभिनवगुप्तं यत्पुराणं च प्रसीदमता हृदयं तत्परो उल्लासयः स्वयं आस्फुरजे अनुत्तरम् अभिनवरूपा शक्तिः तद्गुप्तो यो महेश्वरो देवः तद उभयामल रूपम अभिनवगुप्तं शिवं वन्दे यः पूर्णानन्द विश्रान्त सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पारगः श्रीक्षेमराजः सो दृश्यादृष्टं मे गुरुरुतमः श्री वसुगुप्त महागुरु सोमानंद प्रभु उत्पल आचार्यन् अभिनव गुप्तं नाथं वन्दे श्रीक्षेमराजस्य नमो निखिल मालिन्य विलास पनपटियसे महामहेश्वराय श्रीरामाय गुरुर्मूर्तये नमः कारुण्यदेहाय वीराय शुभदन्तिने भक्तिगम्याय भक्तानां दुःखहर्त्रे ते नमस्तुते यस् उन्मेषनिमेषाभ्यां जगतः प्रलयोदयोः तं शक्तिचक्रविभं प्रभवं शङ्करमस्तुमः नमः शिवाय सततं पञ्चकृत्यविधायिने चिदानन्दघन स्वात्म परमार्थ अवभासिना आस्यानं चित्रस्योगं साकारत्वमुपागतं जगद्रूपतया वन्दे प्रत्यक्षं भैरवं वपुः ॐ आनन्द सुन्दर पुरन्दर मुक्तमाल्यं मौलोहटेन निहितं महिषासुरस्य पादाम्बुजं भवतु मे विजयाय माजु majir sinchit manoharam ambikaya सहशीर्षा पुरुषा पुनातु वः सहश्चाक्षुर्भगवान् सहस्रपाता गले अङ्गी घ्रीणमूले नयने च निश्चला त्रयो अपायामी यमपुरुषा उपासते ॐ सन्नो मित्रः सन्वरुणः सन्नो भवते हर्यमा सन्नो इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः सन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायु त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म असि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ह्रीतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मा अवतु तत्त्वाकारम् अवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 जय गुरुदेव हर हर महादेव हर हर महादेव now I'm taking you through the preface again. It's a quite important. So let's come. We will start where we have just left in the last lecture. So in the preface, Guruji taking us towards slowly giving the outline of the course. So how he will take us in this book. So this preface is quite important to understand the outline of this great book. I would say the Tantric and the philosophical aspect of Kasmir Shavism, the Baudh and the Powers Gyan is being revealed here by our great Guru. So in the last lecture, in the last class, slowly we have just going through the points Guruji explained about, like starting with the siblings of Trika, Pasupat, then Shabshiddhant, and now the Veer Saiva movement. So let's start from this Veer Saiva movement. So Veer Saivism represents a powerful movement in India, a powerful movement where the Saiva theology intersects with the social transformation. Social transformation during the period 12th century. So unlike Pasupatas or Shaib Siddhanta, which are primarily doctrinal system, but the Veer Saiva, that is a social movement basically. So like giving you the historical context first of all around that period, that was a rigid caste the rigid caste system there, and the ritual orthodoxy in the society and temple centered hierarchy is there. So Basava came into the stage and created a reform movement, a reform that is grounded in the direct devotion to Shiva. And this movement later becomes known as Veer Saivism or Lingayat tradition. So this is the Veer Saivism or Lingayat tradition, how it is initiated. So the central concept here, bhakti. central concept is the intense devotional surrender, and the liberation in this system is through love of Shiva, is through personal linga worship, is through the direct experience. In this Veer Saivism system, its liberation is not coming through the ritual hierarchy or the priestly mediation. It's a direct one-to-one relationship with the Shiva, with the Lord Shiva. So basically, this system marks democratization of the Shiva devotion. Social reform dimension, if we touch upon, then Veer Saivism rejects the caste discrimination. Veer Saivism rejects the ritual exclusivity, and Veer Saivism at the same time rejects the Brahminical dominance. At the same place, promotes Veer Saivism promotes a spiritual equality. Veer Saivism promotes dignity of labor, and Veer Saiva movement that promotes ethical devotion. So it is significant. Saivism here, it's very significant to note here. Saivism here becomes socially transformative. Now, together we are just checking the philosophical position of Veer Saiva, moving from the sociology to metaphysics here. So Veer Saivism has no, it has non-dual tendencies. It speaks of samarasya, the state of homogeneous unity, yet it does not fully articulate the rigorous ontological non-duality of the Trika. So it is an experiential non-duality, but not fully developed metaphysical non-duality in Veer Saivism. In Veer Saivism, the role of grace is also there, like Saiv Siddhanta. Grace, the Anugrah, that remains a central, that's the center, that's the central. But emphasis shift towards devotion immediately, liberation through total surrender here, total Atma Samarpan. So in Veer Saivism, total Atma Samarpan is the center point. And from the total Atma Samarpan, total devotion, complete surrender, Anugrah is coming in. So if I compare with the other schools, Saiv Siddhanta, Veer Saiva, and the Trika. So Saiv Siddhanta, that was dualistic realism. On the other hand, Veer Saiva, that's a devotional non-duality. And Trika, we know, that's the metaphysical non-duality. Shaiv Siddhanta, that's a temple-centered. Veer Saiva, that's personal linga-centered. On the other hand, Trika, that's a philosophical recognition, Prativigya. In Saiv Siddhanta, grace via theology. In Veer Saiva, grace via devotion. And in Trika, recognition of identity. The Prativigya is happening through grace. So, why Guruji had mentioned this one? The preface includes Veer Saiva to demonstrate Saivism is not merely metaphysical speculation. It shapes society, it reforms structures, it adapts across centuries. This shows dynamism of the tradition. That's why Guruji holistically looking at Saivism. So, there is a breeze. There is a breeze we can sense here. If the Pasupatas preserves early ascetic devotion, and Siddhanta structures theistic realism. Veer Shaivism democratizes devotion, then Trika. Then Trika's system of Kasmir will then radicalize non-duality philosophically. So I can conclude here this slide with this thought. The Veer Shaivism movement reveals that Shaivism is not only metaphysics but lived transformation where devotion becomes both a spiritual liberation and social revolution. That's the Veer Shaiva. Now the preface is taking us towards the towards the Saiva soteriology, talking about discussing about the malas in very briefly. So to understand to understand Saiva soteriology, we must understand its theory of bondage. And the doctrine of three malas explain why the infinite consciousness appears as a limited individual. So this is not a moral guilt. Here in our system, it's not a guilt, it's not a sin, it's a metaphysical contraction, sankoch. So very briefly, preface is touching upon the anabamal, the limitation of individuality. So this is the most fundamental impurity from anu. Anu means in Sanskrit, anu means a small atom like. So anabamal produces senses of finitudes, feeling of incompleteness. So I am limited. That feeling is coming. In Sav Siddhanta, this impurity is beginningless and real. In Kashmir Savism, it contraction of it is contraction of infinite consciousness. So here the important insight is bondage begins not with action but with limitation of awareness. Very quickly moving to my mal. So my mal, the differentiating limitation. So that's derived from Maya, and in Sanskrit, the Maya, the principle of differentiation. So this impurity generates subject-object distinction, multiplicity, perception, and fragmented experience. It corresponds to the ontological realm of Tattva below Maya. Through this, unity appears as diversity. So Maya is playing. It is not illusion in crude sense. It is a structured differentiation. Now, in preface, it's very briefly. Guruji is touching ka, karmal. So it's a limitation through action that's derived from the root word karma. Karma means action. So this impurity produces accumulated karmic residues, birth death cycles, conditions, conditioned embodiment. So it reinforced individuality. Thus, Anav, if summing up, so Anav existential limitation, and then Maiv, that the cognitive differentiation, and the Karv, that's the experiential conditioning. So together they sustain samsara. Guruji is indicating here. Now the ontological versus epistic, epistemic bondage. So in Saiv Siddhanta, malas are ontologically real, and in Trika, malas are expressions of Shiva's own freedom, swatantra. So bondage is not imposed externally, it is self-willing. Kanchukas are acting here. So thus non-dual reinterpretation of same structure. So this is extremely important here to understand. Now the soteriological implications of this theory of bondage. Liberation requires removal of malas. In Sai Siddhanta, through rituals, grace, discipline. In Kashmir Shaivism, through recognition, through prativigya. So, not destruction of the world here, but the expansion of the consciousness. So, Malal dissolve when self recognizes its own universality. That is the basic idea in Trika. So, the philosophical significance, if we try to understand, the three malas provides a layered psychology of bondage, unlike Advaita of Shankar, where ignorance is singular, avidya. But Shaivism offers here the structural model of limitation. It explains why omniscient consciousness appears ignorant. So, this is sophisticated metaphysical anthropology. So, now we can understand like the doctrine of the three malas, the theory of bondage, shows how Shaiva of Kashmir thought analy- analyzes limitation in detail. Kashmir Shaivism will reinterpret these impurities not as foreign obstacles, but as a modes of Shiva's own self contraction. So this prepares for Aspanda theory and the Prativigya doctrine and Shiva Shakti non-duality. So I'm concluding with the thought that the three malas explains how the infinite becomes finite without ceasing to be infinite. They form the breeze between the dualistic Saiva theology and the non dual metaphysics of Kashmir Shaivism. So let's come next. Preface is touching upon very briefly on the grace. When the chapter will come up, then in detail Guruji will reveal and we will witness that one. So as far as preface is touching upon, we are just interpreting that's one. So in Saiva theology, liberation is not merely self-achieved. It requires the descent of divine power, Shakti path, because we know there is nothing to do with here efforts. The liberation is directly proportional to the grace. So grace is not optional, it is essential. Grace is a structurally built into Saiva soteriology. So Shakti path, the meaning of Shakti path, Shakti, divine energy, and path means descent. So the literal meaning of the Shakti path, descent of divine power, descent of divine energy into the individual soul, individual sadhak. So it is not emotional blessing, not arbitrarily favoritism, but metaphysical activation. It awakens consciousness. That is the role of this grace. Grace is also in Sav Siddhanta in the dualistic framework. So their soul is internally distinct from Shiva, as we discussed earlier, and malas are ontologically real. Soul cannot self liberate fully there. Therefore, grace is necessary. Shiva. the Supreme Lord, the Pati, must intervene. And he is intervening how? Through the grace. And then liberation is happening. So liberation is a gift, not mere self-realization. This preserves divine trans- transcendence. So the degree of Shakti path. First, we will just touching this one. Saiva text classify level of grace. So it's intense grace, tibra, then moderate grace, madhya, then mild grace, manda, then again going like a tibra manda, tibra madhyam, tibra tibra, then madhyam tibra, madhyam madhyam, madhyam manda, then manda tibra, manda madhyam, madhyam manda manda. So very beautifully in our system it is being described. So this reflects hierarchical spiritual anthropology. The philosophical significance, Shakti path. Shakti path protects against pure self reliant intec- in, intellectual, intellectual and it ensures theism remains central and divine freedom, the swatantra, is supreme. So human effort is necessary but insufficient. Now come to the Kasmir Shavism. Transition to Kasmir Shavism. Now we will go deeper. So in Kasmir Shavism, grace is not external intervention. Grace is one of the act of Shiva. So it is self revelation. Shiva does not descend from outside. He awakens. He awakens within as one's own true nature. So Shakti path becomes recognition event. Shakti path becomes here Utsav, Prativigya. So grace is here remembrance of one's own Shiva Tattva, recognition of one's own Swarup. So this is a radical internalization. So grace and non-dualism, we need to understand here. In Trika, there is no ontological distance between the giver of the grace and receiver of the grace. So grace is Shiva recognizes himself through the individual. So this is extraordinarily metaphysical shift from hierarchical theism, what was in the Saiva Siddhanta, to the non-dual reflexivity, what is here in the Trika. So if I compare, comparative insight, if I put forward very briefly related to the grace. So Saiva Siddhanta and the Trika. Saiva Siddhanta versus Trika as far as grace is concerned. So Saiva Siddhanta, grace descent from transcendent Lord, but in Trika, grace awakens from within. In Saiva Siddhanta, soul distinct from Shiva, but in Trika, soul identical with Shiva. In Saiva Siddhanta, liberation as divine gift. In Trika, liberation as recognition. So this shows actually the doctrinal evolution. That is the indication of Gurudev. Understand Saivism in a whole. That is the message. So Shaktipath in Kashmir Saivism is linked with Aspanda, the vibratory awakening, is linked with the Chitta, self-luminous consciousness, Anugraha, divine self-disclosure. Thus, the grace is not accidental here. It is constitutive of the reality, because concealment is one of the act of the Shiva, and then revealment is another act of the Shiva. So in Saiva thought, grace is not merely devotional comfort, it is the ontological mechanism by which the infinite awakens itself from self contraction, and Shaktipat thus becomes the breeze between the dualistic theism and non dual recognition. So, with this thought, I'm closing this slide. Now, the last one for today's Samrasya doctrine. Guruji has touched upon this one in the preface. So, Samarasya represents a profound experiential category within the Veer Saiva and the broader Saiva spirituality. It is not merely emotional devotion, it is a state of ontological sameness, samarasya with Shiva. So, first understand the literal meaning of samarasya. Samarasya, sameness. Samarasya, homogeneity. Samarasya, undifferentiated unity. Because samarasya, sham rasya, if we do the sandhi vichhed, so it indicates a state in which differentiation dissolve in experience. So not intellectual non-duality, but a lived non-duality in Veer Saiva. That's one. So experiential non-duality, when I'm saying, so it is important to distinction. There are two kinds of non-duality. First one, metaphysical. Metaphysical, that's the ontological claim. And second one is the experiential, that the realized state. So the Veer Shaivism emphasizes experiential non-duality, though intense bhakti. Intense bhakti is there. So devotee becomes absorbed in Shiva through the intense bhakti, and duality collapsed in lived awareness. So bhakti as a vehicle there. So in Veer Saga framework, bhakti is not sentimental, it is transformative. Though surrender is there, total dependence on the Lord is there, and emotional purification is there. Then the ego dissolve, and when the ego dissolve, then the dualistic devotion matures into the non-dual absorption. So the difference between the Advait Vedanta here, Advait, non-duality, that's also non-duality through the negation, neti, neti. Guruji always saying this, neti, neti. So Veer Saiva, Samarasya, non-duality through devotional immersion. One negates conceptual distinctions, the other transcends them through the love. This is an important contrast. If I check the philosophical position, so Samarasya does not fully articulate the metaphysical grounding of non duality. It describes experience. It does not construct systematic ontology. That task is performed by Trika. That's why we are coming to Trika. Because the experiential non duality is happening over there, but that is lacking the, the metaphysical part. So Trika is coming and performing that task. So now transition towards Kasmir Shavism. So Kasmir Shavism will philosophically justify what Samarasya describes experientially. Where Veer Shaivism says, I experienced unity. Trika explains why unity is ontologically fundamental. So thus Samarasya, the Prativigya, is basically Prativigya in our doctrine, recognition, and the devotional immersion that is going towards the metaphysical realization. The devotional immersion of Saiva, Veer Saiva, is going towards the metaphysical realization of Kashmir Saivism. So we can check the philosophical depth here. The Samarasya dissolves subject object tension, ego centered identity, and the dualistic perception. It anticipates Aspanda unity, Chit non duality, and the Shiva Sakti inseparability. Thus, but it is a transitional but profound system. So we can conclude this Samarasya doctrine with this thought. Samarasya reveals that Saiva non duality is not merely philosophical abstraction but lived transformation. Where devotion matures into unity, Kashmir Saivism will now give this experiential unity a rigorous metaphysical articulation. So that's that much for today. Thank you very much. I will go through the Bhairav, Bhairavastava, uh, end class with Bhairavastava, remembering Bhairav now and always. So let's sing together. Let's recite together the Bhairavastava. अथा भैरवस्तवः व्याप्त चराचर भाव विशेषम छिन्मयमेकमनन्तमनादिं भैरवनाथमनाथ शरण्यं तन्मयचित्ततया हृदय वन्दे तन्मयमेतदशेषमिदानीं भाति मम त्वमनुग्रहशक्त्या त्वं च महेश सदैव ममात्मा स्वात्मयं मम तेन समस्तम् स्वात्मनि विस्वगते त्वयि नाथे तेन न संसृतिभीतिकथास्ति सतस्वपि दुर्धर दुःख विमोह त्रास विद्यायसु कर्म गणेषु हन्तकमां प्रतिमादृशमेनां क्रोधकराल तमाविनिधीः शंकर सेवन चिंतन धीरो भीषण भैरव शक्तिमयोस्मि इतस्मूपोधव भवमय संभि दिधारित भूरित मिश्रा मृत्युयमान्तक कर्म पिशाचर नाथ नमस्तु न जातु बिभेमि प्रोश्चित सत्य विबोध मरीचि प्रोश्चित विश्व पदार्थ सतत्वा भाव परामृत निर्भर पूरनेर तो ये हम आत्मनि निर्मिति में मानस गोचर में यदैव क्लेश दशातनुताप विधात्री नाथ तदैव मम त्वयि भेद स्तोत्र परामृत वृष्टिरुदेति शंकर सत्यमिदं व्रतदान स्नान तपो भवताप विदारी तापक शास्त्र परामृत चिंता यस्यन्ति चेत्सि निर्मिति धारा नृत्यति गायति हृष्यति गाढं संविदीयं मम भैरवनाथ त्वां प्रियमाप्य सुदर्शनमेकं दुर्लभमन्यजनैः समज्ञम् वसुरूपस्य कृष्णदशाम्याम् अभिनवगुप्तः अस्तवं करोत् येन विबुध भवमरुसन्तापं Chamayati jhatayati janasya dayaluha iti bharavastavaha. Jai Gurudev. Har Har Mahadev. Thank you, Para, for coming in and attending this memorial lecture. Thank you, Dr. Jyoti ji. So, closing this one. Anything has to say? Anything? Any thought? Para, do you have to say anything? You all good? So you are mute. You are mute.
All is well. Thank you, Abhishek.
Jai Gurudev. We will continue. We will continue 5:45 every Sunday, Indian time, in the memory of our beloved Guru. Thank you. I'm closing.